إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين.
In the name of God, and prayers and peace be upon the messenger of God, Joseph, peace be upon him, went through all the details of the final ordeal, starting with the ruler's wife seducing him and closing the doors, then her running after him towards the exit where they found the master at the door, then the arbitration and the ruler's ruling that he was acquitted. The ruler addressed him by his name Yusuf, out of appreciation and honor, and ordered him to forget what happened. The Quranic context then shifts to another plight, which is the news being leaked to the women of the first class of princes and gentlemen. And here the Quran gives us an idea of the prevailing social pattern. The women criticized the ruler's wife for her attachment to a servant owned by her in the palace, and they denied that her servant filled her heart with love. Some women in the city said, "The governor's wife is trying to seduce her servant. She is deeply in love with him. We see that she is clearly lost." Some scholars said about the meaning of this verse that the women denounced the ruler's wife for violating the common custom, for if she wanted to satisfy her desires, and she had to, let her be with one of the nobles in the palace and not with her servant. Some of them said that the women knew the high status of the ruler's wife, so she could not have been in love with her servant, except for something unusual about this servant. So the women wanted to spread the word about her matter in order to show them her servant as a kind of reaction. In general, Quranic stories talk about the nature of human beings, their inclinations and motives, and point out their mistakes and how to confront them, and the importance of values in showing the paths to guidance and avoiding immorality. Quranic stories are generally realistic and deal with human nature in all its situations because their origin is God, the creator of humans and all-knowing of their conditions. The news of the women and their conversation reached the ruler's wife according to what is depicted in the following verse. And when she heard of their gossip, she invited them and prepared a banquet for them and gave each of them a knife. And she said, "Come out before them." And when they saw him, they marveled at him, and they cut their hands and said, "Good God, this is not a human. This must be a precious angel." So when the ruler's wife heard about these women's plot and their criticism of her, she was also skilled in deception, planning, and cunning. So she invited them to a feast in the palace and prepared a luxurious reception for them. The verses describe to us the nature of the luxurious life that the royal families and noble classes were living at that stage. The ruler's woman served plates of fruit to the women guests and gave each one a knife to cut the fruit. The ruler's wife prepared for the entrance of our master Joseph to the women in their gathering, and he was pleasing with proverbial beauty. Joseph, peace be upon him, had both levels of inner and outer beauty. His moral, spiritual beauty, with values of honesty, sincerity, wisdom, benevolence, and chastity, was mixed with his physical beauty, which was equivalent to half of human beauty, as said. Therefore, when he appeared to the women with such beauty and majesty, they glorified him and became immersed in looking at him because of his great attractiveness, to the point that they cut their fingers with the knives in their hands. The women cut the fruit, and the knives reached their fingers, inflicting wounds and drawing blood. while they were immersed in looking at the beautiful sight of Joseph. Before this dazzling beauty, the women said that it was impossible for this man to be of the human race, but rather he was one of the noble angels. This is another indication of the existence of religious terminology in society, as angels are unseen creatures, and identifying them is a religious matter. In general, people tend to liken a beautiful person to angels, and they also tend to associate ugliness with the devil, whose image people imagine with fangs and horns. At that moment of the women's astonishment and attraction to Joseph's beauty, the ruler's wife intervened to excuse herself and explained that this honorable king in front of them was the reason for their blaming her. And she admitted that she had indeed seduced him, and he abstained. In the next episode, we will discuss the continuation of this story, God willing.
إذ قال